Tanse, good evening. I'm Kristen Achkate. Welcome to APTN National News. Me, Gwetch, for joining us. Chief and Council of a Mi'kmaq Nation have banned Nova Scotia's Premier Tim Houston and two of his cabinet ministers from their lands and from all their community events. The chief says it has been a long time coming and hopes other Mi'kmaq nations will do the same. APTN video journalist Angel Moore reports.
I think when our safety is attacked and when we're being targeted by the government, I think all communities should be doing the same.
That is Chief Michelle Glasgow at the Sibäganägäti Band Office after a Band Council resolution was passed unanimously. It bans 3 Nova Scotia politicians, Premier Tim Houston, Attorney General Scott Armstrong, and Minister of Indigenous Affairs Leah Martin, from the Sibäganägäti First Nation and all community events, including the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation and the upcoming Nova Scotia Mi'kmaq Summer Games. This comes after the provincial government directed police to crack down on cannabis shops that do not operate under provincial regulations. Glasgow says this has left the community on edge.
They're assuming that there's hard drugs being sold out of these shops. They're assuming that it's organized crime. They're just making assumptions. They're assuming that it's a way of human trafficking. They're making assumptions because we're Mi'kmaq, so this is where everything's coming from, because we're Mi'kmaq.
But the ban is not just about cannabis. Tensions escalated between the Mi'kmaq and the province last September during a week that included the National Day of Truth and Reconciliation and Mi'kmaq Treaty Day. At the same time, the province passed Bill 127, where anyone blocking forest roads can be fined up to $50,000 and/or 6 months in jail. As Mi'kmaq land protectors were camped at Hunter's Mountain, Unama'ki, to protect the forest from companies clear-cutting. Sibäganägäti Band Councillor Deanne Sack says the province criminalizes the Mi'kmaq.
We celebrated Treaty Day, Peace and Friendship on October 4th, and these individuals are there shaking hands and smiling and doing the photo ops. And on the 2nd, the bill was passed. And in this bill, it's very alarming because they penalized our women, our grassroots grandmothers, for protecting. We're the stewards of the land.
In a media statement, the province claims cannabis shops are part of organized crime and human trafficking. SAC says that criminalizes Mi'kmaq communities and is disrespectful to MMIWG.
They're our sisters, our aunties, our daughters, our grandmothers, our ancestors. They're not just stats. But when they took these stats and lumped them into the organized crime and saying this is what these dispensaries and First Nations communities are doing, that was terrible.
Glasgow says tensions have always been high with the province due to the community's moderate livelihood fishery. Glasgow says the province continues to disregard Mi'kmaq rights.
Right now, our rights are not being protected. We've always been fighting and struggling through fisheries, and there's always been a conflict. But right now, they're attacking us in every direction. And I don't know what it's going to take for them to stop.
Knockwood says the ban sends a message to the province.
I think the message is loud and clear. By them making their statements, they were declaring war on all Mi'kmaq people, on our First Nations. And by doing that, why would we welcome them here?
If the 3 politicians trespass on Sibäganägäti lands, they'll be fined $50,000 each. The provincial government did not respond to APTN News requests for comment about the ban. Angel Moore, APTN National News, Sibäganägäti, Mi'kmaq Nation.
The First Nation at the center of a major mining disaster in the Yukon is taking the territory and Canada to court. The nation has long called for what it says is government accountability in the incident, claiming a lack of oversight contributed to the disaster. As APTN's Sarah Connors tells us, the nation says it's had enough with governments failing to uphold its treaty obligations.
The First Nation of Nacho is suing the territorial and federal governments over alleged negligence in the Eagle gold mine disaster and of violating their treaty obligations. It's also seeking $150 million in damages. The First Nation filed its statement of claim in Yukon Supreme Court on December 9th. The Eagle gold mine is located on Nacho traditional territory. A heap leach failure at the mine last summer released hundreds of millions of liters of cyanide-contaminated solution into the surrounding environment. The First Nation has long claimed the territory failed to properly regulate the project.
This disaster has unleashed cyanide and other toxins into our traditional lands, our waters, and we're still grieving this disaster.
They're also accusing the territory of dragging its feet on land use planning while continuing to approve mining projects on their traditional territory. The First Nation says that's a violation of its treaty rights. The lawsuit calls for a temporary pause on new mineral staking on its traditional territory.
We have to hold public government accountable to their breaches of our treaty.
We reached out to both governments for comment, but did not hear back by airtime. This marks the second lawsuit filed by a First Nation against the territorial government in less than a week. The Tronic-Wichet First Nation is also suing the territory over alleged treaty rights violations. Sarah Connors, APTN National News, Whitehorse.
Further development of Manitoba's Port of Churchill expansion project will be led in partnership with Indigenous leaders. That's what Manitoba Premier Wab Kinew said during his State of the Province address on Tuesday. The partnership will come through a new Crown Indigenous corporation being established in Manitoba. The Port of Churchill Plus project will see trade expand in the north, with big developments like an all-weather road, upgraded rail line, and a new energy corridor in the region. Kinew says Indigenous leadership will be at the center of the project moving forward. The province will introduce legislation to formally establish a Manitoba Crown Indigenous Corporation, or MCIC, in March of next year. MCIC will work on major economic development and trade corridor projects in Manitoba and help with consultation with Indigenous communities. Assembly of Manitoba Chiefs Grand Chief Kyra Wilson says First Nations must help build the blueprint for Churchill.
We still have a lot of work that needs to be done. We need to make sure that all of our First Nations leadership feel confident in the Manitoba Indigenous Crown Corporation. And so right now we are still doing that work as First Nations leadership and ensuring that everyone's voice is heard at the table and what the creation of this Crown Indigenous Corporation, what that will look like.
The father of the late Mackay Pelly Scott is asking for the public's help this week. Pelly Scott is the 21-year-old who went missing in Kenora last October and whose remains were later found in a nearby First Nation. Brian Pelly is the father of Mackay. He says he has been searching for the rest of his son's remains daily in the landfill in Washagamis Bay First Nation and in the nearby lake. Kenora OPP say they found partial human remains on November 26th. 2 people have since been charged in connection to Pelly Scott's death, including 24-year-old Terrence Cherry and his mother, 43-year-old Una Cherry, who was a former vice principal of a local school. At this time, the OPP says their search was extensive and there is nowhere else to look. But the family says they have pinpointed the location of Pelly Scott's remains through ceremony. They are now asking community members to help in their search, including the need for financial donations for more search resources. The family says they can also join the Bring Mackay Home Facebook page for more information. Brian Pelly says he will not stop looking for his son's remaining remains, even if he has to keep searching by himself.
My son was a very outgoing person there. He was easy to get along with there. He liked to just hang out with his sisters, you know. He was very family oriented, you know, and he spent most of his time with his sisters and his brother and family. We appreciate everybody's help and trying to help us get my son, you know, get his body back, and you know, and so we could bury him properly, you know, like every little bit helps, you know, and we would like appreciate everybody if they can come and assist us and help try and find my son.
Homelessness has been a constant issue right across this country. When we come back, we'll take you to the Yukon to speak with housing advocates on solutions. Stay with us. Welcome back. For individuals experiencing homelessness in the North, the contributing factors are long-standing and complex. But what if the solutions were simple? Our reporter Charlotte Moore-Jacob sits down with housing advocates who aim to break down those barriers. Here's part one of that story.
I don't have a house in my own hometown. That's what really gets to me as an Indigenous woman, you know.
At the Yellowknife Women's Society, a dozen women, mostly unhoused, speak their truth.
It's my coping mechanism, I think.
Important testimonies which will help inform work being done by the National Indigenous Women's Housing Network. Network Chair and Elder Marie McGregor Petawategwak listens attentively in the sharing circle.
One of the definitions of homelessness, according to Jessie Thistle, is that disconnection from kin, from clan, from community, from land. And so the dimensions of homelessness are many-fold rather than just being unhoused or unsheltered.
A common denominator? Everyone here has faced housing insecurity in their home communities, and when they relocate to Yellowknife, the challenges continue.
Moved to Yellowknife for employment, and then I left my children's father due to the abuse and stuff like that. Yeah, it's like back to square one, starting all over from scratch.
When a building wasn't locked, I go in there and I sleep.
I took a 2-year program, so knowing that I'm going to be out of town for those 2 long years, I gave up my place to my son and his family.
You cannot talk about homelessness without confronting the legacy of residential schools. According to the city's latest data on homelessness, 65% of individuals experiencing homelessness say their parents attended residential school, and 19% say they attended themselves.
The capacity right now is only 14 or 15 girls in the emergency every day or whatever. And like 2 nights ago, I had to walk around all night because there wasn't a bed available.
Go to the women's center, try to get support, and just to be there. But there's been a few times I get verbally attacked, mentally, verbally.
McGregor Pitawatagwak says it's important to recognize the resiliency of Indigenous women who are doing their best despite systemic barriers.
And for Indigenous women and children to be able to feel safe and cocooned and comforted and warm, that is such a huge element to the safety and the opportunity to be able to be homed, to have a house, to be safe.
Once the group establishes the facts, it's time for conversation around solutions.
I have lots of certificates.
In part 2, we explore the importance of investment and agency for Indigenous women acquiring and maintaining permanent housing. Charlotte Mort-Jacobs, APTN National News, Yellowknife.
Saskatchewan's 2025 Provincial Audit Volume 2 has been released. It examines government programs and services to determine if they are being delivered effectively. Video journalist Rachel May spoke with the provincial auditor.
Tara Clement is Saskatchewan's provincial auditor. This volume of her audit looked into the well-being of correctional workers and social services for families and children.
Our annual integrated audit at the Ministry of Social Services always looks at their processes to safeguard public money and compliance with legislative authorities.
The audit found social services was block booking hotel rooms for child and family services, with rooms vacant 10% of the time in Regina and 25% in Saskatoon. The Ministry of Social Services spent $1.3 million on hotel rooms for families and children between January and September 2025. The report recommends improved reporting so the public and legislators can easily see how much is spent on hotel rooms. Also reviewed was correctional worker mental health, as the job has high sick leave usage.
We thought it would be worthwhile to really look at, did the ministry have the adequate kind of mental health supports in place to support their correctional workers?
The recommendations for corrections, policing, and public safety include clear guidance on using critical incident stress management resources, tracking data to measure the effectiveness of mental health support for correctional workers, and improving staff surveys. Clement says a better working environment benefits more than just employees.
And what we did find from during the course of our work is that can ultimately lead to really just better treatment of the inmates within the correctional facilities.
Each recommendation will be followed up on to ensure it is carried out. Rachel May, APTN National News, Saskatoon.
It's now time again for our Christmas language segment. It's the APTN National News version of the 12 Days of Christmas, and as of today marks 10 APTN work days left until we are all on holidays, but who's counting? Francine Bearhat brings you some Blackfoot teachings from the Siksika Nation.
Idamix Kanotani, Nistu Anako Nadi Pudaki, Nitumtu Tu Siksika, Nina Makoyu Gina Nixista Na A Notubuel Norkoix Exkima Ki Masamutan Ki Sakui Sakumapi Ki Matsugi Tupi and Ki Nitana Istotan. I am Vice Principal here at Chief Olson School, Natu Sapi and Siksika Nation. the whole idea of coming together with family, Nixukuwiks, which are my relatives. So a lot of times with the holiday season, our relatives come together and we share moments and joy. Nixukuwiks means my relatives, and that is just basically who we are and where we come from. Having our own school board, we like to incorporate more traditional values. Another word I'd like to introduce to you is Gasanuniks, and that is my ancestors. So Gasanuniks is when we come together with our family. I used to teach grade 5 and 6 social studies, and I would often introduce them. We do family trees and with Nixukuwiks, our relatives, and a lot of our kids really didn't know, especially those who were in the system, were not with their families and were with kin, but they really struggled with their family trees. And I'd often say, okay, just draw them because they were there. You may not know who they are, but they know you. We pray to our ancestors. I would say more holiday season, but it's got to be a daily occurrence is Kitsigakumim. Kitsigakumim means I love you. Tying that with our family, our relatives, and our ancestors, and, just telling us, because again, with that whole intergenerational trauma, a lot of our people, we didn't know how to express our love or how to say it.
We have more news after the break. Stay with us. Me Gwetch for staying with us. Time now for our photo of the day. Christopher Clark sent this photo from Norway House Cree Nation, where he is out on the lake and appears to be getting ready to do some fishing. Stay safe and warm out there, Christopher, as temperatures continue to drop right now. Brr, you better bundle up quick. Keep your pictures coming by sending them to share@aptn.ca. Time now for a look at tomorrow's weather forecast. On the east, St. John's, rain and 10, Charlottetown, partly cloudy and 5. Nain, -1, Cartwright, -1. -6 in Saguenay, Quebec City, -7. North Bay, -6, London, -2. Sudbury, -6, Thunder Bay, -4. Clear skies in Thompson at -14, Puckatawagan, -14. Winnipeg minus 10, Barons River minus 12. Minus 7 in Regina, sunny in Saskatoon at minus 18. Minus 24 in Uranium City, Buffalo Narrows minus 23. In the west, high level minus 26, Peace River minus 25. Minus 8 in Lethbridge, Medicine Hat minus 9. Cloudy in Vancouver at plus 8, Kamloops plus 7. 0 in Prince Rupert, minus 29 in Fort Nelson. Minus 42 in Dawson, Old Crow minus 32. Minus 28 in Norman Wells, minus 32 in Fort Simpson. Minus 19 in Fort McPherson, Colville Lake minus 26. Baker Lake minus 20, Chesterfield clear skies and minus 17. And Iqaluit minus 17, Iqaluit minus 22. If you've been on social media this week, some of you may have discovered that Ontario musician Shawn Mendes made a recent stop in Saddle Lake Cree Nation, a large First Nation in Treaty 6 territory in central Alberta, about 160 kilometers northeast of Edmonton. According to artist and musician Tia Wood, Shawn Mendes visited Saddle Lake Cree Nation for just one day late last week. She said she got a chance to show him where her and her family grew up, and they shared a small part of who they are with Mendes. Wood says Mendes was also welcomed into ceremony, which meant a lot to her and her family. Throughout the day, Mendes visited with families and fans, including the little ones, and he made a stop at the Bison Auto Shop and was gifted a ribbon shirt by Julia's Quilts and Designs from Saddle Lake's Eagle Healing Lodge. Last October, Tia Wood also got to do a surprise performance alongside Mendes in Vancouver during his On the Road Again tour for a powerful duet of his song Youth. In a statement posted to social media, Tia Wood added, "I want to take a moment to acknowledge and say thank you to everyone who was so respectful during Shawn's short visit to our community. We're really grateful to our relatives and community members who gave space, showed kindness, and understood the moment for what it was." Always love seeing our people roll out the red carpet and give celebrities a warm welcome. Great job to the Wood family. As the new year inches closer and closer, so does the new season of Hockey Night in Canada in Cree and Inuktitut. Watch some of your favorite teams battle it out on the ice with live commentary in languages indigenous to the lands where the modern sport was created. Here's the schedule, so to get your calendars ready.
Watch David Nyungin, Puju Kusigak, and Robert Kvitok analyze 3 games in Inuktitut. Starting January 10th, the Vancouver Canucks are in Toronto against the Leafs. January 31st, the New Jersey Devils play the Senators in Ottawa. And February 28th sees the Calgary Flames elbows up against the Kings in Los Angeles. For you Plains Cree speakers, catch Clarence Iron, Earl Wood, John Shabbat, and Jason Chamakis with their play-by-plays on March 14th for the San Jose Sharks against the Montreal Canadiens. The Vancouver Canucks battle the Calgary Flames in Calgary on March 28th, and finishing April 11th with the Philadelphia Flyers against the struggling Winnipeg Jets just across the street from our studio. Join in on the fun to help revitalize Indigenous languages.
That's all the time we have for your evening newscast. APTN National News Daytime is back again midday tomorrow. Please join us then. To all the cookums and mushums out there, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you again next day.